Today, we're talking about a topic that can be difficult and even painful. Signs that your wife may be cheating. Relationships are built on trust, but sometimes people change and behaviors shift in ways that can raise red flags. If you've ever found yourself wondering, is my wife cheating? You're not alone. In today's video, we'll discuss clear signs that she might be hiding something from you. These are signs you can't afford to ignore, especially if they start to pile up. Let's dive in. One of the first signs to look for is a sudden need for privacy. Your wife used to be an open book, sharing everything with you. She'd leave her phone on the table, you both shared passwords, and there was a general sense of openness. But now, she's locking her phone, changing passwords, and being secretive about her activities. If she starts taking phone calls in another room, or closing the door when she never used to, this can be a red flag. Why the change? What's she hiding? This shift in behavior can often signal something more is going on behind the scenes. Speaking of phones, has she been spending more time than usual glued to her screen? Is she always texting, checking social media, or smiling at messages? But when you ask about it, she says it's just a friend or work. Related? Another big red flag is if she quickly hides her phone when you come near, or refuses to let you even glance at it. This might mean she's communicating with someone in secret. In a healthy relationship, there's no need for secrecy like that. Has your wife suddenly started paying extra attention to her appearance? Now, we all like to look good, but if your wife starts changing the way she dresses or buying new clothes more frequently, sexy or revealing outfits, this might be worth noting. This might be worth noting. Maybe she's suddenly going to the gym more often, wearing makeup every day, or even using a new perfume. If these changes happen out of the blue and don't seem to be for you, it's possible she's trying to impress someone else. Have you noticed that your wife has become more distant lately? Maybe she stopped showing affection, doesn't want to spend quality time together, or seems emotionally checked out. She used to care about how your day went, loved to cuddle on the couch, and enjoyed spending time with you. But now she's always busy, distracted, or uninterested. When a partner becomes emotionally distant, it can be a major sign that they're investing their emotions elsewhere. She might not feel the same connection to you because she's thinking about someone else. Does her schedule seem off lately? Perhaps she's telling you she's going to one place, but when you ask for more details, her story changes. If she's constantly shifting plans or forgetting what she told you, this inconsistency can be a sign that she's trying to cover her tracks. For example, she might say she's going out with friends, but later, the details don't add up. Maybe she tells you she's working late, but you notice strange gaps in her timeline. These little lies can add up and reveal bigger secrets. Another subtle sign is a sudden interest in new hobbies, activities, or even new friends. Has your wife picked up a new hobby that you've never seen her interested in before? Maybe she started hanging out with people you've never heard of. And when you ask about them, her answers are vague. Sometimes people who are cheating will develop new interests that align with the person they're involved with. If she's suddenly into something she never cared about before and doesn't involve you in it, it's worth paying attention. If you bring up your concerns and your wife instantly becomes defensive, this can be another sign. If she gets angry or accuses you of being paranoid, instead of calmly reassuring you, it might mean she's hiding something. Cheaters often project guilt onto their partners to deflect attention. If your wife starts calling you controlling, accusing you of being insecure, or even turning the conversation back on you, it's possible she's feeling guilty herself. Has she become more active on social media? If she's posting more selfies, updating statuses frequently, and interacting with people you don't know, it could be because she's seeking attention elsewhere. Be cautious if she also starts hiding her online activity from you. Maybe she changes her social media passwords, locks her accounts, or becomes more secretive about who she's chatting with online. If her behavior has shifted toward online interactions, this could be a sign of an affair developing through social media. One of the most painful signs is a sudden loss of sexual intimacy. If she's no longer interested in being physically close to you or avoids any sexual contact, it might indicate she's getting her needs met elsewhere. Physical and emotional distance often go hand in hand. If the spark in your relationship has died out suddenly, and it's not because of stress, health issues, or any other clear reason, this could be a strong indicator that something is going on. Lesson 2. Constant need for privacy. Imagine this scenario. You've been married for years and things seem normal. Your wife has always been open with you. You both knew each other's phone passwords, shared everything from social media to casual conversations about the day. There was this easy, natural flow between you two, built on trust and transparency. But then, one day, things started to change. You notice she's taking her phone with her everywhere, whether it's to the bathroom, outside, or when she's in another room. It wasn't like this before. There was a time when her phone would sit on the coffee table while you watched TV together. Now, she never leaves it unattended. You might brush it off at first, thinking it's no big deal. But slowly, you begin to realize it's not just her phone. She started closing the door when she used to leave it open, logging out of her accounts whenever she's finished on the computer, and being more guarded with her time and space. Now, this behavior starts growing day by day. She used to be fine if you walked into the room while she was texting, but now she's tilting her phone away from your view. When you casually ask, "Who are you texting?" or "What's so funny?" she becomes defensive, responding with things like, "Why do you need to know?" or "It's private." What used to be simple, light-hearted questions are now met with irritation or even accusations of being too nosy or controlling. It's confusing, right? This sudden wall between you wasn't there before. And it's not just the phone. Maybe she's become distant when it comes to her personal belongings, whether it's her laptop, her purse, or even her whereabouts. You start hearing things like, "I need my space," or "Why do you care where I'm going?" These constant requests for privacy seem more like an attempt to hide something than a need for personal space. When your partner suddenly becomes secretive, it can trigger a whirlwind of emotions: doubt, insecurity, and even fear. You start noticing little things that didn't seem important before, like how she used to share her schedule with you, telling you where she was going and what her day looked like. But now, you get vague answers. "Where were you?" might be met with, "Just out with friends," or "running errands," without much detail. It's almost as if she doesn't want you to know exactly where she's been, or who she's been, or who she's been with. This constant need for privacy can also show up in her attitude. She starts creating distance emotionally. She's not as open or affectionate as before. Conversations become shallow, and meaningful talks are fewer and far between. She's guarding not just her actions, but her thoughts too. This is where it becomes hard. Really hard. The relationship feels different, and it's difficult to pinpoint exactly why. There's this growing feeling in your gut that something is off, but you don't want to jump to conclusions. You try to convince yourself that maybe she just needs some alone time, or maybe work is stressing her out. But deep down, you know, this isn't the case. It's like watching a wall go up between you. a wall built brick by brick. Every time she says, "I need privacy," or "Why are you asking so many questions?" It's not that you want to invade her personal space. It's not that you want to invade her personal space. You just want things to go back to the way they were when you both felt connected. Now, let's be clear. Everyone deserves some level of privacy in a relationship. Personal space is important, but when privacy turns into secrecy and when openness turns into defensiveness, that's when it becomes a red flag. A sudden and constant need for privacy could be an indication that something deeper is going on. Whether it's cheating, emotional withdrawal, or simply losing interest, it's a signal that your relationship might be in trouble. If your wife suddenly needs more privacy, and this behavior is combined with other signs, like emotional distance, a lack of intimacy, or a change in behavior, it's time to have an honest conversation. Lesson 3. Changes in sexual preferences. Picture this. You and your partner have been together for a while. You've always been comfortable with each other in bed. Things just felt natural, but lately something's changed. She started expressing new interests, trying out things she never mentioned before. Her sexual preferences seem different. At first, you might brush it off as curiosity or experimentation. After all, it's normal for couples to explore new things as time goes on. But as the changes become more frequent or drastic, you can't help but wonder, why the sudden shift? You can't help but wonder, why the sudden shift? Why is she now asking for things she never seemed interested in before? These changes in sexual preferences can leave you feeling confused, uncertain, or even insecure. What's going on here? Let's break it down. One day, you might notice your partner asking for more privacy when it comes to her body. Or perhaps she suddenly avoids certain acts that used to be part of your regular intimacy. Maybe she's pushing for things that feel totally new and unfamiliar to you. Positions, fantasies, or behaviors she's never brought up in the past. She may also seem more or less interested in sex altogether. Where there used to be a balance, you start seeing more extremes, either an increased desire or a sudden drop in physical connection. And with these changes, you feel like you're missing the intimacy that used to make your relationship feel solid. Now, let's talk about what these changes might mean. First and foremost, it's important to understand that changes in sexual preferences can be natural. As people grow and evolve, their desires may shift. Sometimes she might be exploring a new side of herself, discovering different parts of her sexuality that she hasn't tapped into before. That's okay. It's part of being human. However, there's another side to consider. When these changes feel sudden, out of character, or completely disconnected from how she used to express her desires, it could be a sign of something deeper. Sometimes, drastic changes in sexual preferences can be a reflection of emotional or psychological shifts. She might be going through stress, anxiety, or a major life change that's impacting how she connects physically. In other cases, though, these changes may point to issues in the relationship, emotional distancing, dissatisfaction, or even infidelity. If she's bringing up new preferences that seem out of the blue, it's natural to wonder where they're coming from. You might even find yourself asking, is she learning this from somewhere else? Is she exploring these things with someone else? So, what do you do when you start noticing these changes? It's crucial to approach the situation with care and understanding. Jumping to conclusions without first talking things through can create unnecessary tension. The best way to handle this is by communicating openly. Sit down with your partner and express how you're feeling. Use calm, non-accusatory language. Try something like, I've noticed you've been interested in new things lately, and I'm feeling a little confused. Can we talk about it? This opens the door for her to explain what's going on, whether it's just a personal exploration or something more. And don't be afraid to ask the tough questions. If you have concerns, express them in a way that invites honesty. If she feels safe to talk about her changing desires, you'll have a better chance of understanding the root cause. Lesson 4. Emotionally distant and less engaged. Imagine this. Everything seemed to be going well in your relationship. You shared moments of laughter, deep conversations, and intimate connections. But now, something feels different. She's not as present as she used to be. Emotionally, it's like there's a wall between you. You used to talk about your day, your dreams, and even the little things. But now, those conversations are shorter, and she seems distracted. When you try to connect, you get short answers or distant responses. There's less warmth, less engagement. The person who once felt like your emotional partner now feels like a stranger. This shift might leave you wondering, what happened? Is it something I did? Or is there something deeper going on? Let's dive into why emotional distance happens and how to recognize it. So, what can you do when you notice your partner is emotionally distant? The first and most important step is to start a conversation. It may feel uncomfortable, but honest communication is the only way to truly understand what's happening. Try approaching her in a non-confrontational way. Instead of saying, "Why are you ignoring me?" or "What's wrong with you?" Try something like, "I've noticed that you seem a bit distant lately, and I want to make sure everything's okay. Can we talk about what's been on your mind?" This opens the door for her to express how she's feeling without feeling attacked. It also shows that you're invested in her well-being and the health of your relationship. If she's going through a personal struggle, offer your support. Sometimes people withdraw emotionally when they feel overwhelmed and aren't sure how to ask for help. Let her know you're there for her, no matter what. In some cases, emotional distance can be hard to navigate on your own. If you've tried communicating and the emotional gap is still widening, it might be time to consider couples therapy or seeking outside support. A professional can help both of you understand why the distance exists and give you the tools to rebuild emotional closeness. Sometimes, emotional distance is the result of underlying issues that neither partner can see clearly, and therapy provides a space where both of you can express your concerns safely and constructively. Lesson 5. Admitting emotional disconnection. Picture this. You've been with your partner for a while. You've shared beautiful memories, built a life together, and always felt like you could rely on each other. But recently, things feel off. You're in the same room, yet you feel miles apart. Conversations that used to flow easily now feel forced, and the emotional intimacy that once bonded you seems to have faded. You know something isn't right, but you can't quite put your finger on it. You try to brush it off, thinking maybe it's just a phase or things will get better on their own. But deep down, you realize there's a disconnection that's hard to ignore. The longer it goes unspoken, the wider the gap becomes. It's important to remember that admitting emotional disconnection doesn't mean your relationship is failing. In fact, it's often a sign of growth. By acknowledging the problem, you're taking responsibility for the health of your relationship. You're saying, "I care about us enough to want to fix this." Many couples go through periods of emotional disconnection, especially in long-term relationships. Life happens and people change, but the couples who successfully navigate those challenges are the ones who are willing to face them head on, admit when something's wrong, and work together to make it right.